is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mansplaining, the show for guys, bad dudes. This is the show where a couple of old guys try to give advice to 22-year-old versions of themselves. So, guys, I'm Dave Germain. With me, as always, is Jake Hamill.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, thanks for joining us, whether you're listening to us on Spreaker or you're on Spotify or iTunes, wherever you get your podcast from. If you're listening to the audio, thank you very much. If you ever wanted to be part of the show, you can follow us on Twitch or even follow us on Mansplaining JD, I believe, on Twitter, and you can get updates when we go live, so that way you can take part in the chat room and stuff and have some fun with us. So thanks for showing up. Let's see. Let's give a quick little. We don't always do this, but we when we do, it's pretty fun. And that is checking who the hell's been listening to us over the past week or a couple of weeks. Because for some reason we're really big in India. That's one thing. I don't know why we are. I think they really love misogyny, but I'm kidding, guys. But yeah, either way, it's just always weird to see who the hell's listening to you. You know what I mean? So let's see here. All right, downloads, geolocation. Man, my internet is fucking slow as fuck right now. All right. Looks like United States came in strong again, because for a while, dude, India was actually almost about to take over the United States when it came to listeners.
Oh no.
Yeah, that means that I'm like, wow, shit. But India's a very strong number two. A distant third is the UK. Then we got followed by Thailand, Canada, and Sweden. So thanks to everybody who accidentally clicked on our podcast link on Spotify or whatnot, but we really appreciate it. And we appreciate it. If it's just a scammer in India who's like trying to practice his English, or like we're just listening to us, is like, how do I sound like a drunk stoner guy who's not going to go anywhere in life? Oh, wait, I'm going to listen to this podcast. I'll be like, hey, accurate, but still, come on, you know.
And through our language, you'll be able to scam a lady out of her savings.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're welcome.
And hey, listen, if you have scammed an old lady out of her savings, you can kick a little bit of that our ways by going to either the Twitch station and donating, or just going to disjointedpod.com, and you can donate your scammed winnings on for us there. So now I'm going to check on see to make sure that we're actually are. That's weird. Something just it just kind of logged me out for some reason. That username does not exist. What are you talking about? Oh, let's try that. Or you can request the code via. Man, this is weird. Twitch is getting kind of twitchy, if you ask me. So, man, you just got back from your from fucking New Hampshire, man. Tell me about your trip. What was going on, man?
Yeah. We went out there originally to dump my dad's ashes. Because he died a few years ago.
Right.
And we couldn't really get together earlier because of COVID. COVID fucked everything up.
Right.
So we found that we were gonna get us all together.
Oh shit! Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna say it'd be kind of difficult to get together because of COVID, seeing as like half your family didn't believe it existed.
No, they did.
Okay,
they were
fair
one
enough.
They were the believers. They were like, like when I said I wasn't when I didn't get my vax, they were like, what? And I'm like, I'm not gonna debate you about this. I don't have it. And they're like, well, you should get it. I'm like, we're not doing this right now. We're not having this.
They're just trying to find other ways to get you into this conversation, just because they're like, listen, I don't know if I could talk to Jake without arguing with him for more than 5 minutes. So let me see if I can keep circling back to this COVID thing and how he needs to do it.
But it's kind of funny, but it was weird. I took my I didn't have a car going up there.
Hold on 1 second.
We were like,
I'm broadcasting, so go ahead. If you need to grab something, you're gonna get on camera anyways. Hey, that's my mom, by the way. That's Hamill. He's saying hello.
Hi.
By the way, my mom's staying with me, whoever's watching this, all right? It's not like I'm not living at home with my mom. My mom came to help me out, so.
He's living at home with me.
Ah. Come on, Mom. I'm trying to do a show here, too.
Bye.
Bye.
I went and I drove around, borrowed my brother's van, and I drove around some of the parts that I used to live in.
Mm.
But never really, I didn't do that the last time I went there, you know. And I was like, this is only the second time I've been back.
Mm.
So I borrowed the van. I drove to. So I had this one apartment in this town called Farmington, right? Farmington is like the armpit of New Hampshire. It's real bad. It's just it's rough. And
It's funny. I've never
we,
been to New
we
Hampshire,
had
but
a
I can always say that no matter where I'm at, the next place I'm going to go is going to be worse than the place I was just at. Like it just
yeah
keeps going.
yeah yeah
Like there's
pretty
some
much
dude who's just wearing like freaking, he's wearing pants that were made out of discarded Cheeto wrappers, and I'm like, wow, man, Hamill was not fucking
yeah.
around with this.
It was the kind of town where I remember when I was living there, I saw like an 11-year-old kid smoking a cigarette, like he knew how to smoke a cigarette, and it made sense. That's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it made like I wasn't like, well, that's weird. I'm like, no, this makes complete sense why this is happening. Of
Like he
course,
tries to bum a
you know.
smoke off you, and he's like, "What is this? A filter? Jeez, I needed a man cigarette." And you're like, "What?
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. He's
Kid, you're
packing a
11. Your
fat
balls
camel on
haven't
his
even
shoulders.
dropped yet. Come on."
No,
It's like drop farther than
but
yours, dragging in friggin' Winston Light, you jerk. You know.
yeah, right. No, I went to my first apartment I ever got. I drove by it, and it was a bunch of these old people sitting out front, and I slowed down. I was gonna get out and take a photo or some shit like that, get
Yeah.
on the porch, and I slowed down, and I had mass. Excited, it was my no, actually, it was my brother's car, so I had New York plates, so they don't.
Mm.
They're weird about that kind of shit, and I go to slow down, and the guy stands up and goes, "What the fuck, man? What do you want?" Like he starts yelling at me, and I'm like, "All right, I'm fucking out of here." So I just kind of drove by and looked at it. I was like, "All right, bye." But then me and my ex-wife had a house like years ago.
Right.
It was her dad's house. It was like he bought it when he got divorced, but then he rebought his old house back from his ex-wife.
Mm.
So he used that house as a rental. So and we had it for the longest time. And I'm guessing he sold it or some shit
Mm.
because it looks completely different. Like there's a second floor to the house now.
Wow.
It's all like gardening and all that stuff, like
Mm.
out in the front, and it's nuts. I drove by it and I didn't recognize it.
Huh.
Like I was like, I thought this is my road. I turn around again and I drive by and I was fucking blown away. I was like, God damn, because it looks nothing like what it used to. It looks nothing like it.
Mm.
It's fucking. It was weird. And then drove by the last apartment we had. Wanted to see what that looked exactly like it did when I found out she was cheating on me. That's like that's the house we had. That's the apartment we had.
So this place stays the
So
same. Jesus.
yeah, right. Yeah, every other place is different, but this one changed. This one stays exactly the same. But it made me wonder, like, I mean, it made me think because there's like so many things that were there that like changed. There's so many things that changed, but yet a lot of shit stayed the same. A lot of it, you know,
Hmm.
and it made me think like, nothing stays the same. Things change, and that really hit me hard on that one. Like things change.
Yeah.
And you know, as much as they kind of look similar, it's a little off. Especially when you've ever been back there, shit, in like 10 years. So it's been over 10 years since I really kind of went down in that area, and yeah, it looks kind of the same, but yet it looks completely different. It's bizarre.
What was the? You know what? I always had to ask my question because when I went a few times, I went back to Lucerne Valley. I was like,
Yeah,
could I live? I have to ask myself that question: could I live here again?
yeah,
I mean, for me, that question was answered even before it was even formed in my head. I'm like, no fucking way. But
yeah,
there's always a little certain aspect where I'm like, man, was this place really the way that I saw it when I was growing up? Or because it looks different now. Was it like this? Or maybe I just didn't have different, like I wasn't mature enough or something like that. Or maybe because I wanted to get out on my own so much that I couldn't see the town for what it was. Or I put a lot of
yeah,
shit on it. Like I hated the town that I grew up in and I hated a lot of the people in it. And I remember, and it's been a while since I even mentioned this book, The Artist Way by Julie Cameron. I was doing that whole 13 chapter program on how to recover creative energy and all this other stuff. And part of the thing is doing daily pages, 3 pages of just stream of consciousness writing every morning. And I'm like, I'm going to save the last day of this journey for that trip. And so that's what I did. You know, I kind of planned it that way. And I'm like, all right, this is the last time. And as I'm looking around all the people in this market, because that was my first job, that's where I found out that adults really didn't like me because I was a wise ass who thought that I was better than all of them. And in all fairness, I really am. But like, sorry, I fucking left. I went to New York. I went to a very difficult school to get into. I've done some things that a lot of people can't fucking do. So sorry. I mean, granted, that's not everything because a lot of those guys they grew up there. They got a house. They got kids. They're happy. You know, I mean, they might not. Their job might not be fulfilling. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But they got a loving family. And I'm like, okay, it's not going out and doing shit isn't everything, but he said, "What? You think you're better than us?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah. That's why I freaking got accepted to that school that most people did not get accepted into." Uh, but the whole thing is I'm
Yeah.
sitting there and I'm looking at all this and I'm like, you know what? These like, why do I freaking hate these people so much? Like, it's not serving me anything, and it's like I could see this town that I'm like, well, no wonder it works the way that it does. There's no industry here. If I was these
Yeah.
people living their lives, I would feel exactly the same way as they do. You know what I mean? It was just I
Yeah.
had my eye on the prize of getting out of here no matter what the cost, and I got lucky and I was able to actually do that. But it was weird because I remember at one point as I'm writing all these pages down, these words and thoughts, and I'm like, I felt like a big weight was lifted off of my shoulders, and it was this hate that I was keeping for the town that I grew up in that I honestly didn't realize that I had. But I was kind of like, man,
Yeah.
that was a lot of wasted energy. Jesus. I mean, it wasn't at the time. It motivated me to get out of there. But every moment since I've left, it's kind of like, man, you know, you've got the stove on, right? And I'm like, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had it on for like 12 years now. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, at this point, why change anything? I'm like, no, you need to go and turn the fucking heat off. You know what I mean? But I don't know if that was something that
Yeah.
that you. I mean, the pictures that you put seem to be way more like happy, like, hey, this is somebody I used to work with, or that one gal uh, picture that you took. I was like, oh, I was gonna ask about that story. I'm like, who is that?
Oh, that's she was one of our secretary, Donna. Her name was Donna,
Oh,
and we used to always joke around because she always used to brag about how big her husband's dick was.
oh, okay,
It was hilarious because, dude, it's a bunch of movers dudes,
yeah.
and like they couldn't,
And
that's
she's got
it's
to
like a
let all those
special breed
guys
of,
know that, hey, listen, my husband's got a huge freaking hog, so
yeah,
you can put
yeah.
your dick
And
back in your pants. I don't need nothing.
I used to joke about it. Like I had one of my the funniest jokes I ever said was actually towards her. She was saying something about how she's concerned or how her husband's concerned about something, and I paused what I was doing. I looked her dead in the face, like impromptu, like
Mm.
improv style. Looked at her and said, "Listen, Donna, the only thing your husband has to fear is small airplanes crashing into his dick,
Yeah.
okay? And having a grill and climbing with a white lady in his hand. Now fucking calm down, like calm down, man." And she fucking dude, she would have this laugh where it was like you weren't sure if she was laughing or she was having a fucking asthma attack
Nice.
because she'd go, it'd be a deep inhale, like like it was nuts, yeah. And then she'd be like, so making her laugh was funny. But no, but it was a job where like I felt like I could be myself. It was like I had that job for years. I
Hmm.
quit the shipyard, a federal government gig, making all good money, good benefits, all that crap. I left that to go work back to work for them
Right.
because I hated the job. But I enjoyed the moving job because I got to see new shit every day. Granted, I
Yeah.
worked a lot of hours. I busted my ass.
Right.
I paid for it later because my feet are fucked
Yeah.
because of all the hard work I did in my hands too. But like, I mean, I got to meet some really fucking cool people. I got to work, in some really crazy scenarios. I got to see some wild shit. I got to hang out with some fucking just the cast of characters that I would see on a regular basis was fucking great. It was insane, like in a good way. Like you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
when I went back there because when I left in 2010 because I started doing stand up. I started doing stand up and I just couldn't do both
Oh yeah.
because I had to be there early in the morning and it's a very like intensive job where like you have to work real hard. And so it was really hard to like bust your ass for like 8, 9, 10 hours and then get in the car, drive to Portland, Maine, do a set, come back, get 3 hours of sleep, drive, that shit on repeat after a while. I was burning myself out. So I
Yeah.
had to quit. I didn't want to quit, but I had to. And they were also on the verge of like going under because of the whole '08 crash and shit.
Oh really?
So the fact that they when I went there, they're still around and they're actually better than ever. They have like twice as many fucking trucks as they had when I was there.
Hmm.
Um,
So they've
they
expanded and
also
stuff.
had,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and like the same, I think like the same like 4 or 5 core guys are still fucking there.
Oh wow.
They're still there.
There's got to
Yeah,
be something good about that job then, right? You know, like. By the way, if you're
yeah.
watching this on Twitch, an ad's about to start, so if there's a good time to go get something to drink. If you're listening to the podcast, that actually we make more money off of that, so thank you very much. All right. No, that's good to hear. It's funny, like I get a job that somebody like. See, because I don't know, I always try to think about like, what if I didn't want to be a comic, right? What if I didn't want any of that, and all I wanted was just a decent job and everything, and I found a job that was decent enough where it's not necessarily it's fulfilling enough that I don't want anything else. And for the guys who actually do work jobs like that, I always found that it was just way that's like super interesting, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But well that's cool. That's cool. She's still with her big dick husband, I'm guessing, is that secretary.
No, actually, they separated.
Oh
They
really?
yeah. She told me that first thing, and I was like, and she's like in her 60s now, and I'm like, I'm like, calm down,
Dude, you're like,
down.
well, I am out of town and nobody knows that back home.
Yeah,
Let me
right.
see if I can make this happen. I don't know. She told you that
no,
she's separated first thing off. Like, Jake, you're here. I'm separated. I mean, hey, what are you doing?
no, she told me that like about 5 or 6 minutes in when we started talking.
Oh,
Like,
okay, fair enough.
but she was not she was somber about it. She wasn't
Oh,
like he's out of town now. It wasn't like that.
yeah.
But then what was it? Uh, saw some old coworkers of mine, some old friends,
Mm.
and I actually had a friend of mine, this guy named Stewie that I worked with. There's a story that I used to tell all the time at work, right? Like this is when I like the whole running my bits by shit,
Right.
by people thing. This is where it started. Me having to work with these guys for like 9 or 10 hours at a whack,
Mm.
So you got to think of something to talk about.
Right.
And there was a time. Everything cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Just checking stuff on the computer. That's all.
Okay. Work. Okay. There's a time when back when I was married, right? Uh, I used to sometimes indulge in some adult movies. If you catch my drift,
Yeah,
I
fair
used to
enough.
rent. Yeah, I used to rent. This is like before like high speed internet.
Yeah, this
So
is
like you
before,
remember?
guys, you can watch porn on your phone. You'd actually had to go out and
Yeah.
either rent it
This is
or spend like 50 or 60 bucks on a porn video. And
yeah.
because they weren't cheap, it's not like you could buy them really cheap. And you're like, no, because the only place you could buy them for is from a video store that rented it. So they're like, no, if you want this, you're gonna pay me a lot of money for it. You know what I mean? If you want to see Killer Sluts from Hell 3, it's gonna be 160 bucks
No.
or something.
Well, the thing is, my cable company back in the day, they used to make you have to buy a block of this shit.
Oh
So we're talking
Jesus!
like $80 for like 3 hours, and you're like after 10 minutes you're done.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
now like what the fuck do you do?
Right.
So one time, so my ex wife used to go out to like do this band practice shit because she was like in like a ensemble or some shit.
Right.
She played the clarinet.
Okay.
She played clarinet, right? So she would go off like every like Monday for like 2 hours and go do that.
Right.
So because back then it was like, well, shit, she's gone. All right, let's fucking. It was the race to go jerk off,
Yeah.
basically. She's out, she's gone. I'm gonna beat my dick while she's gone. Like,
Yeah.
but so I bought it. I bought a 3 hour section of it. I did my thing, and I had fallen asleep on the couch with my pants down and my man shit all over my stomach. Fucking, didn't clean up, didn't do nothing, just fucking laying there with a remote in my hand, fucking passed out.
Like
She comes home. I hear her like open the door. Like that's when I wake up. That whole jingle of the keys
Yeah.
and I unlocking the door.
Yeah.
And I try to get up, but she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing." She's like, "Why are your pants?" And then she sees the TV and she's like, "What the fuck, man?" Like she got mad.
Yeah.
And I tried to play off like the reason why my pants are out because I have a leg cramp. I tried playing that. And she's like, she wasn't buying any of it. She wasn't buying any of it.
Yeah.
And she was mad because she hated the fact that I did that shit.
Really?
Hated it. Oh yeah. She was one of those chicks.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but it was just funny because I tell people at work that kind of shit, they'd be like, dude, That's fucked up. And I'm like, that's kind of funny though, right?
I mean, if she was a carried wife, which obviously we know that she wasn't because you guys are no longer together and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But you're like, you must have fucking nutted so hard that you passed out afterwards. That's, jeez. Like, were you been holding that in for like a week? What's going on? What are you doing?
I
Because
think
that's like,
so. I
it's
must have.
yeah, it's kind of like sometimes like when you take a shot of whiskey, but you drink it too fast or the weird way, and then it just kind of hits your head, and you want to go, it's time to take a nap. That's probably how I figured how that nut felt. Is that you're like, hey, and like in slow motion, your whole personality changed to like, I should take care of this to make sure she doesn't catch me, or I'm gonna take a nap and hope that I'm fast enough when I can hear the keys and develop superhuman speed to not only wipe off my stomach, but also roll up my pants so she's none the wiser. Oh, that's a great story, man. Oh, that's fucking
I
great.
forgot all about it. I forgot all about it. And then he told me it when I saw him.
Yeah.
He's like, remember that time when this happened? And I was like, oh my God, I forgot all that. I think he was thinking I deny it, like, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
But no, he told the story. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. That's fucking hilarious.
Right.
And there's a guy who was there who didn't know who I was. And he's just like, this is the guy you guys always talk about?
Yeah.
Because I have a reputation.
Oh, apparently. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
there was this guy we used to know like freaking 8 years ago. His name was Hamill. Oh my God, he was holy shit, he's here. Hamill, I haven't seen you forever, but tell me the story about the time you jizzed on your stomach and fell asleep, and then your wife caught you. Go ahead, tell the story. And I'm like, you just told the story, you know.
Yeah, you basically gave the whole thing away. You fucking thanks a lot.
Yeah, fucking whatever he said. You know. Oh man, but how you feeling now that you got back from home and stuff? You're back at Phoenix. It's hot as fuck.
Well, one, it's actually this is a very Phoenix thing to say,
Right.
but it's nice outside. It's like 98, 90, 95.
That
like
is a freaking nice day, especially in July. Oh my God, that's a beautiful day.
Yeah, which I mean, I never thought I'd say that. Where I'm like, oh, it's borderline 100, so it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's still if it's a dry heat, it's still okay. But it's like once it gets above 110, it doesn't matter, dry heat or not. You're just like, oh Jesus, man.
Yeah.
This is no good.
But I got bitten up by mosquitoes the whole fucking trip I was out there.
Oh really?
Because we were out in the woods.
Oh fuck.
So it was on. I mean, we had to like light citronella candles. I had to like wear bug spray and shit because it was just you go outside and it'd be like fucking 4 or 5 mosquitoes trying to kill you or trying to eat you, trying to suck the blood out of you and shit.
Wow.
And it just I forgot about that. That's the one thing in Denver we don't have really mosquitoes, and out here they're rare. Like you'll see them around, but it's not a lot.
Well, you'll see gnats, but you won't see a lot of mosquitoes. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so I haven't dealt with them in fucking 10 years, and I go there and I'm like in the heart of this shit. So I'm like, God damn.
That is crazy. It's weird. I saw like this video I guess it might have been out of New York somewhere, and they're like, would you walk through this field? And it was a field like filled with there was it was kind of like in a farm where they had an irrigation ditch that was just withstanding water, and there had to have been easily over 1 million or 2 mosquitoes. Like it had to be a farm with a bunch of livestock because otherwise I'm like, what could support that many mosquitoes? You know what I mean? Because if nature makes that many mosquitoes, let's make 1 million, but only like 1/10 or 1/2% of them are actually going to be able to survive. What is all that? Why do they make all the rest of them? And those ones are just going to die off out of hunger anyway. So there has to be something that was feeding them. But yeah, I looked at this thing and I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I live in Denver, man. I don't have to deal with fucking mosquitoes anymore. The closest we have a bunch of dragonflies and things that look like they're going to bite you, but they don't really. I don't know. Maybe it goes along my theory that Colorado's too nice. That's why this place gets super violent real quick sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Super weird. No, I went to a beach too, and I said something fucking crazy there. They charge people to use the bathroom.
Really?
That's like if you want to go use the bathroom at Old Orchard Beach, they'd be like 75 cents, please. And you're like, are you shitting me right now? Yeah.
Hey, no state taxes, right? So this is like we got to put a toll at the beach because so many people come here.
Yeah.
It's a shit toll basically. How many people just fucking shitting right outside of like right on the beach anyways and just be like pretend they're a cat? They just like try to scoop it up. I'm like, I didn't have 75 cents. Here's your 75, and they just fucking drop a deuce in there. For a nickel, I'll cover it up. Otherwise, I'm just gonna let it sit in there like a steamer.
My sister had to pay a $1.50 to take her son to the bathroom.
Wow, why did she get charged? Oh, because two people. That
Two
seems
people.
crazy, man. I wonder if somebody just decided, like, it's a public beach, and like, I got an idea. We're gonna make millions. Hey, do you still have those 5 bags of concrete over at your cousin Packy's house? And you're like, yeah. All right, get that. And then just whatever, and I'm gonna build like they build a bathroom to nowhere, like an outhouse out there. He's like, all right, now I'm gonna need you to stand out front, 75 cents per person. I don't care if it's a kid or the mother, just do it, and they're gonna want it. And somehow just try to make up some bullshit story as a shit toll. And if they don't want to do that, they can do the cat tax and shit outside of the box. So, um, yeah, that seems weird, but
Yeah.
fuck it. Sorry, I'm like on fucking riff mode right now. I'm only doing one mic a week, and it's not enough. I still like my neck isn't quite where I want it to. Like I can keep my head straight up, after the neck surgery, but there's still a part of me that no matter what,
Yeah.
it just starts kind of dropping down, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to go to a mic. And on top of that, like like I was supposed to get my chemo, my third round of chemo this time, right? And
Yeah.
apparently, like I'm reacting really well to the chemotherapy because my blood is like super weak, and they're like, yeah, we can't do chemo on you this week. You're like, the whatever blood level needs to be at 1,000 to 1,500, and you're like at 500 right now. So, hey, the medicine's working, and I'm like, great, all right. So, because I was starting to get past a lot of the side effects, I knew they were gonna kick up again as soon as I got my round 3. But then they're like, no, I guess you get a week off. And I'm like, holy shit, this is great. But they're like, yeah, don't go to a lot of public places though. I'm like, all right, I guess.
Oh.
But, I still got the mic on Sundays over there with Bear, which that's been getting interesting, dude. Like, we've been getting at least 3 to 7 people watching every week for the past month or so. It just kind of happens by accident. Like, somebody's like, because, we're not rude. We give everybody a 10-minute warning that we're going to be doing comedy. So I'm like, don't put any more money in the jukebox, all that other stuff, kind of give everybody that kind of warning. And yeah, every week. I mean, granted, we had a couple of drunk hecklers but the hecklers that we had are like 2 drunk young guys who think they're helping.
Oh no.
Talk about this, talk about that. I'm like, dude, I'm not your fucking Netflix. All right, I'm your
Yeah.
old school fucking TV. So whatever's on is on. This is what I'm talking about. But yeah, other than that, man, it's been really cool. It's been great. Bear and I have been keeping it going, and it's I don't know. You still have yet to go actually start with Mike's in Phoenix yet, right?
No, I mean I sent the email out to I think it's CB Live. They're doing like open mics I think on Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to get on that. The one mic I could have went to that I knew where it was, that actually folded. That one's no more.
Oh,
There's like a Spanglish open mic. Like
okay.
they encouraged, yeah, either they encouraged anybody if they spoke Spanish or English, didn't matter. Which I thought was kind of cool. I just never got a chance to go to it,
Hmm.
and then finally the one chance to get, it's not there. They closed it.
I could
Yeah,
keep
no,
up with the with
I'm,
my Phoenix
I'm trying
page
to figure
anymore.
out the scene here. It's like what the fuck's what because everything's either on one day and then there's nothing for 3 days. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You know
don't
what I mean?
know. I don't know either. I know there's it's weird. Nobody there has a showbiz mind, or if they do, they have more of a carny mind. Like, how can I get some money out of people as quickly as possible? How much money can I make from this open mic? And the
Yeah,
idea is virtually none. Um, even like,
yeah,
especially if you're a bar, because it's like, oh, there's 100 people in there. The bartender's going to figure out after the first night that these guys aren't going to tip, and they're probably not going to buy anything. Just ask a bunch of waters and shit. And
yeah.
then if the bartender hates the mic, and then it's only a matter of time before it's gone. But yeah, I don't know. I know what was it, the Tempe, or the one over at the Jeremy Ditto runs. I think that one's Tempe Tavern on Tuesday. That was it,
Okay.
and that one is kind of like a college dive bar type thing, but that would be more akin to like a bar on Broadway. Uh, but other than that, I don't know. I couldn't really keep up with the rest of the Phoenix page because, like, I was telling folks on the Denver comedy scene page, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm really out of it. So, like, if you want to have your mic on the page, like, freaking let me know. But I'll try. I can't update this as much as I wanted to, just because I got so much other shit going
Yeah.
on. And then for the Phoenix page, I'm like, I can barely keep up with the Colorado page, so I think I'm just gonna let this page go, and I removed it from the site, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would always think that if you want people to go to your mic, you want everybody to know where it is, and then there's just a lot of folks that just don't really,
Yeah.
they don't contact him. I'm like, this is something that's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm just gonna put your mic information up there, and they're like, yeah, wait for somebody else to do it. I'm like,
All right. Well, yeah. It's like
what kind of
whatever,
mic is this gonna be? Am I gonna get better, or is it gonna be one of those things where you guys just work on your 7 minutes so you have enough comedy to do a showcase and drink with your friends, but not actually get better or be professional about it? Um,
Yeah.
which is kind of, those words actually came from somebody else, but I believe in them. And I think now that, like, once they said it and I started looking around a lot of the comics around town, I'm like, yeah, you don't want to get any better than your 7 minutes. That's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can name a few, but I'm not going to.
Yep.
So there's something I wanted to talk about, but I'm gonna wait in just a few minutes because we're pretty much at the half-hour mark. So what I'm gonna do for the folks who are listening via audio, you're not gonna hear anything, but Jake, I'm gonna cancel this meeting and start up a new meeting, real quick, and
Okay.
then so that way, because otherwise this one's about to shut off, and I'm not paying for Zoom. So, all right, 1 second, guys. And great. Now that Jake's gone, I can tell how I really feel about him. No, just kidding. Let's see. Computer audio. Participants, invite. See, you listen to me. You too can learn how to write medium. Facebook. And yeah. Dun 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 dun. Ba-da-ba-da-dun-dun-dun-dun. Zoom meeting is coming back on. He'll be here in just a second, folks. Thanks so much for checking out this, for getting out the show and stuff, man. Guys, sometimes we covered a bunch of topics already for all the young fellas out there, like how to deal with a breakup and all that other fun shit. But if you have a question, you can email us or hit us up on the Facebook page or whatnot. All that stuff helps and stuff. If you have a topic you would like us to talk about, we've been more than happy to talk about it, unless it's something that's obviously you're just trolling people. But yeah. Yeah, we're all about trying to figure out ways to be better versions of ourselves. I think that's a noble endeavor. Now, here's something that's going to make me sound like a total asshole. All right, welcome back, Jake.
Oh.
So, if one of my favorite comedians to follow on Facebook, and I encourage everybody to do this because his videos, he spills a lot of tea, and he's very brutal and he's very honest about a lot of things, and that's what I love about him. It's what I love about his comedy. His name is Ty Rivera. He is the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world, and I would definitely check him out. So he put up this video where he was talking about the employees at the theater in Minneapolis or whatever, the one that said that we're not showing up if you have Dave Chappelle here. He was like,
Yeah.
by the way, if you're the owner of that theater, you need to fire every single person who did that. Because they say
Yeah.
that they said in their things, we are true champions of art. And he's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You are not a champion of art. And I think we need to start calling people out who say that, hey, they pretend they're an artist, but they want to censor somebody. I'm like, all right, if you want to censor somebody and spend your time doing that, you can, but don't call yourself an artist because you're not an artist. You're like saying you're a soldier, but you refuse to fight. Fuck off. That's kind of one of the tenets of being a soldier. So, and I sent him a message because what I'm about to say I could be accused of the exact same thing. And that is somebody who says they're an artist but hasn't put the work in. And in all fairness, I feel like I do feel like I'm an artist. But if somebody said like, dude, I don't see any of the mics around town, they'd be right. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right. So I just mentioned this private message to Ty, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'm the person to say this, but there's going to be a Trump character that comes along, and he's like, you know what the problem is that we have a lot of people pretending they're artists, but they're not artists. They do not create. A lot of comedians who say that they're very funny, but they're not funny. People will tell you. And what we need to do is build a wall around art, because there's a lot of people trying to invade, a lot of people trying to leech off of our system and our goodwill, and we need to make sure that they're not here. Okay? Okay. All right. They say, hey, I'm here for a champion. No, you're not. You're here to censor. Okay? You're here to talk some bullshit and pretend for 5 minutes and hope that we don't kick you out. But we're gonna kick you out. That's what we're gonna do every single time. Okay, every single time someone comes up and say, "Hey, you can't punch down." Guess what? The wall got 5 feet higher. You know. And yeah, that was world's worst Trump impression. But that's gonna happen, I think. And there's gonna be at some point, folks are gonna be like, "Dude, we need to build around a wall around our art because you're not a fucking artist. You're not a comedian. You don't respect the whole thing. Like if you spend more time trying to tell people how they should do comedy versus actually creating comedy, and I'm about 51-49% right now, so I am aware of this. But then you probably not that you're not so much of a comedian, you're a critic. You know what I mean? Like you're a
Yeah.
comedy critic, and if that's what you want to be, I guess some people might find a use for it. I don't have any, but it's not really being a comic, and I don't know. I don't know. At some point, like I'm just gonna be like, fuck it, I got cancer. I'm gonna start telling these kids, you're not a comic. You're not a comic. But it's like I've heard the same stupid freaking three punch from you out of the past 2 years, and apparently nobody gave you the message that shit wasn't funny. So freaking stop it. But I don't know. I don't want to be that guy. But at the same time, the only thing I could think of is like, Dave, you just got to do better than all the other freaking pseudo comics out there. If you can't do better comedy than somebody who's not really into it, then that's your problem, not so much theirs. You know. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think at some point there's going to be like Trump, if he's not gonna, if he doesn't get elected or gets nomination again this go around, he ends up trying to build a wall around stand-up comedy just to piss off everybody in Hollywood, or I don't know. What do you think? I think it could happen.
No, I mean, it's weird. Like granted, I haven't been really in it for about a year, so I kind of feel weird about
Right,
about it because I don't. I'm kind of in that. Like I talk more about people that annoy me than actually the art of stand up.
right, and
Um,
which is
and I,
basically is a subtle way for to actually give myself a kick in the ass. I don't know if you want the same one, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy when
yeah,
I'm freaking telling jokes or
but
doing this.
I mean, it's also like I don't. There's something that my old friend Lou used to tell me years ago, and it stuck with me. I don't know why it just stuck with me.
Mm.
Out of all the things he fucking told me, but was if it's not fun, then why are you doing it?
Yeah,
What's the point? Why if it's this isn't fun for you, why the fuck are you doing it? And I always wanted it to be fun, and when it's not fun, it pisses me off.
right.
So I get a little fucking loud about it. How I don't like this person. How I don't like what they. Because a lot of people, especially now, and I've seen it. It's not just here. or it's not just in Denver. It's also in Philly. It's in Boston. It's in New York. It's all this shit. It's like these theater kids that just want to be cool
Mm.
and they want to recreate their version of like their high school memories
Right.
in this world. And Colin Quinn said it the most. Like when stand up's popular, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Stand up's not supposed to be like the thing everyone. It's not supposed to be cool.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not. It's it's a rarity for it to be cool, and for people for it to be like their angle, to be cool.
Right.
That's like when people like don't like to talk about their bad shows, but want to jerk themselves off about their good shows.
Right.
That for me is a red flag. That's a red flag for me. You want to be hip, you want to be in the know, you want to fucking show like how awesome you are. Where like I'm telling, like I could have a hundred awesome shows in a row, and then have one bad one,
Right.
and I'm gonna tell you the story about the one bad one
Yeah.
because I think it's funny and it's unique because nobody's gonna talk about their shit like their
Mm.
bad shows. I
Right.
do it all the time. I think it's kind of it makes you a bit of a human, and it's not douchey. Whenever you're like, yeah, I fucking did awesome in that show. Well, you're kind of supposed
You're
to,
supposed to.
and
Yeah.
like it just seems lame to like brag about that,
Right.
you know.
I did my
So
job. Hey, check it out.
yeah, and people don't know how to take that. It's like those theater kids that want to be cool and shit, or like those like want to be punk, poser kids who want to be cool, like they think they deserve to be in high school.
Right.
Um, for them to be like mad that you're like that, they see it as like you don't have confidence in yourself. That's not what it is at all.
Right.
I just think it's cringy as fuck to be like, yeah, I'm fucking awesome. It's like, what? Like, I mean, have pride in what you do
Right.
and be like, yeah, man, I did a good job that night. But don't be like, hey, guess what, man? hey, guess what?
I don't
I
get.
fucking did that shit. You know, it's why?
I don't even know if I've ever
It's
said
so
that I crushed. I don't think I've ever told anybody else that I crushed, unless it was like you and I were talking about something, or I'm talking with Barrett. But normally it's like, no, I did okay. That's the most I'll ever tell any other comic. Like, how'd you do? I'm like,
oh,
I went all right. Yeah, okay. Could have been better, but it was all right. Even though I
but
remember everybody laughing their ass off. You know?
yeah, I mean, and I've had some great shows and I've talked about them, but they weren't the reason why I was bringing up the show. I'm bringing up the show because like something happened or whatever. Or at the show, I talked to like, yeah, I did this show up in Fort Collins, man, I fucking crushed. And then afterwards, I went and talked to this guy,
Mm-hmm.
and this happened, yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I mention it, it's like almost like a fucking throw in. Like, yeah, I did pretty good. Anyway, going back to the story, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I'm not like, dude, guess how I did last week? I
Yeah.
fucking killed it, man. Should have fucking saw it. I was like, yo, fucking blah blah blah, and they were like, oh my god, you're fucking amazing. You understand how fucking lame that feels? And I'm
Yeah.
just joking around,
Yeah.
but just joking around saying that, I get douche chills.
Yeah.
I get like mad douche chills over that shit. It's just, you know.
It's a weird thing. Like it's so funny because like let's put it's I think I'm being a coward by this saying is like, oh, there's a lot of people invading our artistic space, which is pretty douchey. Where I'm one of that person like somebody should do something about this. Like, well, why don't you? And I'm like, oh, I'm busy. I can't do it. I've got barely enough time to complain about it, but I can't do anything about it. So somebody, I don't know. I don't like things the way they are. I need somebody to fix it. Toot sweet. So that way I could be happy. And like, that's kind of like, oh yeah, that's also coming out of my mouth. That's not good. You know, you're like, oh geez, I don't want to, that's not being part of the solution and not the problem. But yeah, the
Well,
only
no,
thing I'd say is that I told Capolino this, and I go, this is not a good thing for me to say, but like, I don't know if it's having the diagnosis and everything that's kind of giving me more of a bump, but it's like, you know what, I want to do so good, whether it's a showcase or a mic, that I convince at least one person in the audience to quit comedy.
yeah, there you go.
That's the level that I want, because I felt that before. Because I felt somebody like there's times where well, I'll just say somebody who writes an amazing joke like Jeffrey Nelson, right?
Yeah.
He'll write something out there that it just kind of like sucks the air out of the room, and it's so freaking hilarious, and you're like, holy shit. Now I've gotten to the point where I would be like, I'm gonna write more because I want to be as funny as Jeffrey Nelson. But in my younger days, if I would have heard some of his best bits, I would have been like, I don't think I could ever be that funny. I'm gonna stop. You know what I mean? So I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of that's one of the ways that I'm looking at it. But part of me is like I could feel that theater training freaking competitiveness come back, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'll be an asshole about this. I can do this. Ugh.
Why? Okay, so why is it, since you went through it? Why is like theater stuff so competitive? Like what? Why?
Because there's
Because I've noticed.
how many spots are on there on a show, like in a cast? You can't cast everybody, right? So
Yeah.
let's say if the cast only has like 8 people, all right, so 400 people are going to audition for that part, more than likely, depending on where you're at, whether it's a small town. If it's a small town that only wants like 8 people to do it, everybody's going to be cast, everybody will be happy. But the more people who want to do it, when you've got, like, I'll put it this way. I remember every time Woody Allen would do a movie, he would do a cattle call in New York City, which means anybody who wants to audition can audition. So I remember, like, you have to put your name on a book, and this is something you're going to spend all day and a half just to get 30 seconds in front of a casting director to say whatever, a few parts of a monologue, and basically the only part that you're going to get is that of an extra, more than likely.
Yeah.
You might get a principal thing where you get a speaking word, or you're featured on camera for more than a few seconds. Nothing crazy, right? So I remember, like, I'm waiting in line, and as we're getting to the line, towards the end of the line, to sign your name on there, it's very difficult. Everybody's scrambling for it. So this is tell you how competitive it was. Somebody like throws the thing aboard my face because everybody's trying to reach and grab it. So I'm like huddled down, bent over, trying to write my name, and everybody's trying to. There's like 5 or 6 people that are trying to rip this out of my hand. So as I'm signing, I'm like I'm Charles Barkley in the paint. I'm just fucking throwing elbows back and forth, and I'm positive that I hit an old lady in their chest because I heard an old lady go, "Ooh," and I'm like, "Get the fuck out of my way," and then signed my name, and then And I didn't even actually stick around to audition. That's how much of a wuss I was. But the whole thing was is that that's how competitive everybody was. Is that they're willing to get violent to get their name to get on there, so they can get in front of it. And they're like, remember, just like comedians, actors are also broken people. But the difference is that their art form requires somebody to one person to approve them, and that's the casting director. And then
Yeah.
once they're actually in the show, they can work and they get better and everything. But and then let's say they do a good job in that show. Well, the next show that comes around, now they've got a reputation, at least with that one director and with the other actors that worked with them. So now, if let's say you were working with me in a play, the next play comes up. Well, it's not guaranteed that both you and I are going to get cast. So if I start going, I don't know if I should say this, but I mean, for the sake of any of the female cast members and stuff, Jay can be a little aggressive sometimes. I'm just letting you know. And I say something like that, so that way the casting director just goes, maybe I don't want to hire this guy. I don't know. And you know what? And there's the actors will do shit like that to each other in order to try to get ahead because it's really about whoever's going to get that part. And it's fucked up. It's messed up, but that's what the law of the jungle was. You know what I mean? That's one of the great things about comics is that we're not really like that. But the thing is that there's still some comics who have a lot of that theater freaking aggressiveness. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And they think that there's like, hey, the shows that are on right now are the only shows in town. I'm like if you really really hated the scene, you could start your own room. You know what I mean? It's way more
Yeah.
difficult to do that with theater because
True.
ultimately, it's really like the type of plays and everything is really comes up with the that comes down to the screenwriter or the whoever's running the theater and what plays they're going to produce that year. But for the most part, the actors don't really have any opinion one way or the other. You know, if they said like if honestly, if there was a play on Broadway that say this is a pro-Trump musical, there would still be a shitload of people, actors out there auditioning to get a part on that play. They say, "How can you dare support Trump on Broadway?" I'm like, "Hey, you know what? I'm on Broadway, motherfucker. So at least I could
Yeah.
say that. So can you say
If it,
that? No? All right, then shut up. You know? Because
yeah.
only real Broadway actors are part of this conversation right now. You ain't one of them. So I don't know. And I think it's same thing with film,
Yeah.
same thing, it's just but that's my opinion on why they're so aggressive because there's so few roles. Comics, there's only so many spots per night per show, but you could always make something more. You know what I mean? So if we
Yeah.
can't get on a play, if we can't get on a showcase or a show, or be a feature or an opener for something, we could at least go to an open mic. You know what I mean? Actors don't have that. You still there?
True.
Uh,
So-
Sorry.
Yeah. 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 No, that's a world I don't know if I'd be able to live in.
I
You know
didn't
what I'm
want
saying?
to.
Because I don't. That's whew, that's wild.
That's one of those things. Even when I first started comedy the first year or two, I kind of had that a little bit of that mindset just because there was a couple of comedy bullies in that scene at the time. Um,
Yeah.
Guys who were there was this one dude who I wouldn't say he was funny, he was just provocative. And it was interesting to watch him. But then sometimes he just like blatantly just dropping N bombs, trying to, like a suburban white kid, trying to freaking be hip
Yeah.
or whatever. And it just didn't work. And years later, I found out this dude had like a serious heroin problem. And that's one of the reasons
Wow.
why he was so inconsistent. Some days he was just really, really free and feeling great. And I guess could be funny, but most of the other times he would just sit there and shit on the room because, it was just horrible. And I don't think he's doing comedy anymore. And then there's the other guy who was able to make a little one of the few guys was able to make a little bit of money in town and then decided that he was the guy to talk to about comedy and everything, but really his set wasn't that funny. He was just really funny compared to a whole city full of people who were just starting comedy.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a bunch of 1 or 2 year comedians are trying to go get somebody who's been doing it for 5 or 6. But the guy who's been
Yeah.
doing it for 5 and 6 isn't usually as funny or as polished as the guy who's been doing it for 10 or 15 years. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
don't know. Holy shit, Jake! We're at 50 minutes right now. Can you believe that?
Damn.
Hmm.
Damn.
But
See, in stand up, the guys that used to scare me
mm-hmm.
as far as when I'd see them were the guys that I saw weren't really going anywhere, but yet they've been around forever.
Yeah. That's me
You know what I'm
now.
talking about.
Yeah.
And I like some of these guys, but at the same time, it's like they would act like that. Oh, I've been doing this for X amount of years. I deserve this level of respect. And it's like, no, that's not how this
Yeah,
works.
showbiz owes you nothing.
Yeah, because I've seen guys who like started doing comedy like 6 months ago, and now they got like a fucking Comedy Central special,
Yeah.
and it doesn't suck. You know what I'm saying? Like that's I'm saying like this is guys that are just wired like that are just hit the ground running.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's just a part of it. But there's also guys that just grind it out, and they'll have like a decent local following for like 20 fucking years, and then all of a sudden they're popping off
Yeah.
because they worked hard.
I think there's
But
the difference is that also with comedy you have to get out of town at some point. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Well, you
yeah,
definitely have to get out of your comfort zone. So I know as soon as like I'm able to drive now, my neck's gotten that much better, but I'm still not 100%. At least as far as with my shoulder and all that other stuff. So I'm gonna wait like another week or two, but I'm gonna start going out and doing open mics again. I'm like, all right, I got to do the mics that I've never been to, and I don't know how it's gonna go. Like it could be pretty
yeah,
rough. It could be a late. It's been a long time since I've done Lion's Lair. I need to do Lion's Lair again because I haven't performed in front of a bunch of drunks in a really long time, and I got to remember how to
yeah,
do that. That's what last week at my last mic kind of reminded me of, is that there was a couple of drunk people. Now they weren't really heckling me, but they would not leave Bear alone. And while he was up there, and I'm like, man, it's been a long time since I've had to deal with any of this. I don't know how this would have worked. So I'm like, I should probably go to some rooms that I'm not super comfortable with. On top of that, I haven't seen Crawford in a while, but even like, well, certain mics I'm not going to go to in certain theaters in town, but even the quote unquote woke mics, I'm like, do I want to try that? I don't know. Maybe I should because I don't want to. I don't know. You know what I mean? But anything that's going to get me
yeah.
out of my comfort zone,
Well, also go there and just do whatever you want.
right?
You know what I'm
If they tell me
saying?
not to come back, that's fine too. But I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to have you on my website page. But if you want to friggin' don't want me to ask me back, all right, it's your place, I guess. You know what I mean?
I mean, for them telling you not to come back, I mean, I can't imagine a reason why.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you're right.
Unless you unless you go into like a weird tirade about how much you hate N words.
Yeah, and you're like, wait a second, where did this come from? I don't know. I was just improv, all of a sudden, I got super
Yeah,
racist. I don't know. Now
I
that
couldn't
would be
help it.
that
The
would be a
guy who legit
nightmare.
said, "What's that?"
That would be a nightmare. Can you imagine where it's kind of like,
Oof.
no, I didn't think I was a racist person, but apparently that last set that I did proves otherwise. So I got some work to do
Yeah,
on me. Shit. Well,
like you pull a Kramer.
yeah. Oh, I feel you know what? I mean, like everybody, did you watch the episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee where he had him on Richard, what's his last name?
Oh, God damn it! Now I'm forgetting. Yeah, him, yeah,
But that dude,
Kramer, the guy,
yeah.
yeah, Michael
And
Richards. There you
Michael
go.
Richards, that was it. And Jerry Seinfeld
Yeah,
was like, "We need you back in comedy." Because with people before the guy freaking dropped his went on his freaking tirade. When it came to improv and funny stuff consistently on camera, that was the dude. That's the dude
yeah,
that you wanted in your show. That's the guy that no matter what, paying whatever, he's got to be funny no matter what. There are some shit movies out there that once you see that dude, you're like, oh, at least he's going to be funny. That's good. Even though the rest of this movie
yeah.
is shit. You know what I mean? But I guess because I've heard this story from a couple different podcasts and different comedians. I think I heard it from Rogan's and I also heard it from Aisha Tyler's that he'd been hitting like, the improv and the comedy store and um, Comedy Magic Palace and all these other places up and down in Hollywood. And everybody's saying this has been like a total train wreck because this guy is coked to the gills and he is just like none of the stuff that was coming out was funny. And so, yeah, he goes to the comedy store, and he was not in a good state in the first place because he'd been bombing and all this other stuff. He's been freaking, like I said, he's coked up. And then these guys heckle him, and then he just freaking, all right, let me try to improv my anger towards these people heckling me. And it was the worst thing ever that he could have done. And then, he apologized, but at that point, he was the first one where people like, yeah, I don't think we accept that apology. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
we don't want to see you
Ooh,
anywhere. You know what I mean? Anywhere.
well, and I'm pretty sure it was somewhere around the Don Imus stuff too.
Yeah, because that was also, I
Yeah.
mean, that was a hot story and everything. Where it's kind of like we don't want your apology, we want to see you suffer.
Yeah.
So you know,
That was by the way, that was the beginning of the end.
yeah,
Don Imus was the beginning of the end. People can sit there and argue with me about it all they want, but man, I tell you, man, they fucking everything that all those crazy people yelling about how it's gonna like, this is gonna happen if we go down this road. We're
mm-hmm,
all right. They're all fucking completely right. Like look what's going on.
mm-hmm.
Like you fucked up and you apologize. They don't want your apology. They'll take the apology, but now they own you.
Yeah.
That's how they act about it. It's like now we own you.
Well, it's
You
weak
know?
people having something they could do that seems strong. Like there's a reason why you
Yeah.
don't give the weakest people the best weapons because they're probably going to abuse it. Because somebody who
Yeah.
has strength ideally worked hard and can appreciate it. Granted, that's not the case with everybody who's strong, but like if most there's a lot of people that think that they're strong because they're with a group. But if you do like if they were by themselves, they probably wouldn't be so strong. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So there's that. I think that's a lesson that like humanity. There's a lot of people out there that they're gonna have to learn themselves. But shit, there was this last thing I was. Speaking of this, this is rather than sit there and bitch and moan about people canceling this, canceling that. I'm gonna we'll end this on a positive note. If you guys haven't gotten to it, there's only a limited amount of time to get it. I think it's August 1st is when it's no longer going to be available, but it's like a $10 video. After tax, it's probably going to cost you 14 or 17 or whatever. Maybe it's 14 and it costs you 17 after tax. But Andrew Schultz's comedy special, Infamous, go to
Oh,
theandrewschultz.com, put in your credit card info, and what happens is you could stream it for like 2 weeks, and then they'll give you a link, send you a link where you can download it. Because they had it where it was streaming only for the first 2 weeks because they didn't want other people freaking distributing it, I guess. But
yeah.
I can tell you, it's funny. It's funny. It's raw. You know what I mean? If you want some like true authentic comedy, I think there's not a better special that you can get right now. I think it's great. There's this moment because what he does, man, is like he throws in crowd work with like between every 3 or 4 bits. Like he'll do something
Yeah.
funny, get on a subject, and before he goes on to a different subject, he'll go talk to a couple or somebody in the audience for a little bit until that thing is over. Then he goes into his next premise, and it'll start going on something else. You know what I mean? So hopefully, maybe the conversation or
Yeah.
whatever the crowd work leads into the next premise. Then he goes on that, and once that is pretty much done, then he'll go back and talk to somebody else. It was pretty ingenious the way that I did the way he did it. I thought the way that it looked was pretty great. You know what I mean? Um, so either way, I would invite people to go check that out. Also, if you haven't seen Bill Burr at Red Rocks, I think that's not his best special, but that's a pretty good special. I had to watch it twice because I started trailing off towards the last half of it. But yeah, good special. Check it out, definitely. Trying to think if there's any other specials that I've seen that are really good. Anybody that's been canceled, go check out their special and see if you how surprisingly funny it'll be. Like Crystalia's last
I
one,
do.
No Pain, was freaking hilarious.
I haven't seen it yet, but I want to go see it. It's that Louis C.K. movie, Fourth of July.
Oh, really? I gotta check that out too. Maybe that's the next one I'll check out.
Yeah, with Joe List is in it, and it's got a bunch of like New England comics and shit in it, like
Mm.
Tony V and a couple of the guys, like Lenny Clark and stuff. And it's basically Joe List is playing a guy who's like a musician and all that shit, but he's got to like make right with his parents because he feels like he was not loved by them or something. And they're very like classic New Englander, like Massachusetts, like
Mm.
that kind of, what I'm saying, like that whole era of time in person. So it looks like a good movie. I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it. I was gonna see it when I was in New Hampshire, but I didn't have time, and you know,
That'll
nobody
happen.
really shares my this. Nobody really in my family shares the same kind of uh like likingness for comedy that I do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
um,
I
what was
think
I talking?
there's people in my family that like it now because they know that I do it and I love it. But for the most part, they were never big. No, actually, that's not
Oh,
true. My brother and my cousin were pretty big stand-up fans.
no, my whole family is, but the kind that I like, they don't like. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
gotcha. You know who was really
Like,
good?
like,
That Jeff
no,
Dunham guy. You really like him. You ought to like. He could probably give you some advice. Yeah, and then
oh no, the ones I always get is like, I like, I love Joe Coy, or I love this guy, or I love
yeah,
that guy. I'm not shitting on Joe Coy. I'm just saying that's not what I do. And
right.
that's not my wheelhouse. Like I showed him. Have you heard of Gillian Keeves?
Yeah. Oh my God,
Yeah.
those guys are great.
dude, I showed my brother the Trump speed dating
Hilarious
skit.
sketch. Yeah.
Yeah, when he calls it a pussy convention.
Yeah. I guess they were doing a
Trump.
pussy convention, I guess.
I get all the dates. I can get any date.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing. Yeah, he. I showed him that. I thought it was hilarious. And they were like, I don't get it. I don't think it's funny. I'm like, and my mom was like, oh my god, is that Donald Trump? It was that good of an impression. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh my god, is that really Donald Trump? Oh my god. And then she goes into a whole tangent about how she hates Trump. And I'm like, you're not gonna.
Oh, dude,
Okay.
my mom hates, like, they got to the point that anytime somebody mentioned Trump, she would immediately start yelling, right? And so, this is like like a year or two ago. I'm at my wife and I, Jenny, are visiting my mom, my aunt Christina, and my cousin Carlos and my cousin Luis are there as well. And so it's great because it's kind of like a nice family thing. But these guys, they would space it out, but every like half hour they would compare my mom to Trump, and just to watch her freaking start screaming. And they're like, Thea, isn't your birthday coming up? And she's like, yep, I'm gonna be 77. Like, hey, you're the same as Trump. And it's like, I have got fun, and she would
Oh,
just start screaming, and it was hilarious. It was freaking great. Um, yeah, that's Oh, so this is there because kind of like when your family said they didn't get it. I was doing my handgun bit at the open mic, and this is the only thing where I had to like admit that this drunk little fucker who thought he was helping kind of rattled me because I started talking about guns, and I was talking about the lockdown, and not to do the whole bit, but I was like, hey, did anybody else get a gun last year? Like, yeah. A couple of people raised their hands. I'm like, did you get it because of your belief in the Second Amendment, or you just like me ran out of toilet paper and decided you needed to get strapped because you saw some white people burning down a Starbucks and you're like, holy shit, now it's time to get our, you know what I mean? So that dude
yeah.
started yelling out, you got that from Rogan. And I'm like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, Rogan was talking about people getting guns during the pandemic. I'm like, yeah, that's a premise. There's not a bit behind that, And I'm like, this part of me was like, listen, dude, I've watched Rogan specials at least 5 or 6 times a piece. Like, believe me, I know his material, and I know if I would know it if I was biting off of it. And I'm like, this fucking guy, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, but I just thought I would share that thing where I'm like, I let a heckler get to me, but I didn't freaking lash out at him. But yeah, it's funny when people do that. I don't know. All right, guys, I think it's been an hour. We talked about going home, the things that we learned. We talked about building the wall to keep out all the non-artists from comedy, which sounds about as realistic and worthwhile as building a wall around anything. We all know that those only worked in the 14th century. Once they started getting catapults, that shit was useless. Anybody who's played Civilization or any of us know this. But either way, guys, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you're in Denver and you wanted to get a chance to take a look or check out an open mic, go to CO as in Colorado, or abbreviated Colorado, coopenmics.com, and you can find a list of every open mic, and even some in Fort Collins and whatnot, and Colorado Springs and Boulder. And you can go check out a mic, or even if you dare, sign up for one and actually try your hand at stand-up comedy. We'd love to have you out here. Also, if you speaking of mics, we have the Bear and Dave semi-professional open mic for comedic and betterment, located at Antero Hall in Lakewood. Check us out. We go on around 8 o'clock every Sunday. It's 3 to 4 comics, folks who've actually had a decent amount of time in this business, so we're going to give them 10 to 15 minutes. So it's not going to be a mic where you have to sit around between for a shitload of 3 or 4 minute sets that all suck. So, I actually have a bit of entertainment in this show. And I don't know, Jake, do you have anything to push or?
Not at the moment, no. I'm
No?
trying to get open mics, but I'll let you all know.
No, fair enough. I just didn't want to assume, man, and be like, hey, dude, I had something. I'm like, oh, shit, sorry. But either way, guys, thanks
Oh
for
yeah, no.
tuning in. Yeah, follow us wherever you follow things, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Come check us out. Signing off for the Mansplaining. I'm Dave.
I'm Jake.
Y'all have a great week.
Yeah.